All right, good evening. Wow, this is pretty amazing to be able to be here with you guys. I have to tell you, I get to do a few of these events, and Sherry and the team do an incredible job for this. I have been sending back to our team photos and videos and everything that y'all are doing because we have our event for our agents in 2 weeks, and I said we have got to steal every bit of this because this is great. So thank you, Sherry, for having me. Also, Ron, just so you guys know, when we were first purchased by HomeServices, one of the things that Gino Bafari does is he has us have an accountability partner as a fellow CEO. I got the privilege of having Ron as my accountability partner, where we talked every single day for a month, and we've continued a lot of that. And I just have to tell y'all, I've been doing this a long time. I don't know of a single person that cares more about providing value for his agents and has more integrity than Ron Sheffield. And let me say this, the last day and a half, he has driven me around this city. And listen, I've been coming here my whole life. This accent, by the way, is L.A., Lower Alabama, in the Panhandle, just so y'all know. And I kid people, I say, and I went to school in Mobile, Alabama, or UCLA, the ugly corner of Lower Alabama. But as Ron was showing me around the city and giving me the history and showing me everything that's out there, that leads into what I really want to talk about tonight, which is the possibilities that we have, and especially you guys have. Do you realize that every single person in real estate would kill to be working in this market at this time, with this company, and having the future that we have in the state of Florida? I say this to my team all the time. Who's got it better than us? Nobody. And I believe that with all my heart. And as I saw everything that's here, I'm so inspired by everything that's happening in this city. I told Ron, I feel like I'm looking into our future in the Panhandle in a lot of ways for some of the things that are happening in here and have been happening. And I'm just excited for you guys. So I'm going to give you kind of a little background on my story, just so you kind of know the reason I have so much passion for this business. I grew up, when my parents were divorced, my dad moved to Fort Walton Beach, which was about an hour away from Defuniak Springs, where I grew up with my mom. My dad actually opened a brokerage company there. My mom and my stepfather opened a brokerage company. So I was one of those SOBs, sons of brokers, if y'all have ever heard that. So I went off to college. I ended up I was like, I'm not doing real estate. I went in and I worked for Merrill Lynch as a stockbroker for a number of years, or for 1 year, full year. The coat and tie thing was not necessarily for me. My brother was graduating from FSU, and he said, hey, I think I'm going to go back and help Mama grow the real estate company. And I didn't have to ask me twice. He and I went back. And so I started selling real estate back in 1994. And one of the things that was kind of interesting is my brother and I, before there were teams, we had a team, I guess you could say. It was the two of us with his wife as our assistant. We did like 109 transactions in 1997 or 98, wherever it was. And from that point, what was crazy, though, is our average sales price was $72,000. So we closed like $8 million. And I was like, man, this is crazy. What are we doing here, you know? So we literally got burnt out, got out of the business. We sold the family company. I went into banking. I've never been, I consider myself, maybe you'll understand this, an outside cat. Now, what an outside cat does, it's not like an inside cat that gets fed. An outside cat has to go kill something to eat. And so I've always considered myself an outside cat, I guess you could say. I went to work at this bank, and all of a sudden, Lincoln's birthday rolls around, and they're like, we're not working on Lincoln's birthday. I said, you're not working? What are we doing here? So I'd been in this bank for about a year, and I'd grown this loan portfolio because my background was in real estate, obviously. So I knew all the developers. I knew all of the folks that were out there trying to sell lots, and the builders. And so I was doing a lot of loans. I went to them, and I said, hey, can you help me out? I could use a raise here. And I remember sitting there, and I sat in the office, and they said, Jimmy, we never do this with a first-year employee, but your production has been incredible. We're going to give you a 5% raise. I said, I got to get back in real estate real quick. So about that time, I'm sitting there. This is around 2001, 2002 time frame. So for those of you that have been around a little while, the market was just beginning to start taking off again. So here I started looking around, and I really realized if I was going to get better, I had to change myself in order to be able to serve people better. So I began to just do all this deep dive into everything that was out there. I listened to all of the, back in the day, tapes or CDs from all the motivational speakers. And I remember one day, I'd come into that office and I just felt like I'm in the wrong place. I'm just not where I'm supposed to be doing what I'm supposed to do. And I was listening to, if any of y'all remember Zig Ziglar, the old guy, he said this, and I'd heard it so many times, but for some reason it hit me different. He said, if you'll just help enough other people get what they want, you can have everything in life that you want. And it was like, boom, it just hit my soul. For some reason, it just hit me different. Wait a minute, this isn't even about me. This is about serving other people. So immediately as I began to do that, I started looking around. I said, oh, well, I got all these builders that are looking for lots, and I got all these developers that are looking for people to buy the lots. If I can just put this group together, all of a sudden I got something here. I got asked to do a loan on a development that was a lot. It was going to be a bunch of lots that were going to be built down by the beach. And I realized that there was no way the bank was going to do this loan. But I looked at it and I said, I bet I could sell a bunch of these lots to these builders. They won't even have to get a loan. So I went and talked to them. I'm still at the bank, but I still have my license. That evening, I met on the hood of my truck. I had one of the old aerials, and I laid it out, and I sold 14 of those lots for $275,000 or something. And I realized, wait a minute, I'm going to make more on this deal that I did this afternoon than I will at the bank. Now, so listen, all of a sudden, as soon as I began to focus on helping other people, everything began to change. I left the bank, got back into real estate. Again, the market's taking off, right? So here we are. What happens is that year after I left the bank, in the first year I left the bank, I look back, and now what happened is for what I was making for an annual amount at the bank, I'm making in a month. The next year, I'm making what I was making in the bank in a week. And let me say this. Here's the thing. Y'all know how sometimes when things happen fast, when things go up very fast, you know what they can do? That's exactly right, and that's what happened. The market changed, and I got to be honest, so did I. I lost focus on what had gotten me there. I lost focus, and I began to, 2003, I was like, it's 2000 me. I don't know what I was thinking. But I lost focus, and so consequently, I'll never forget the day, because listen, things don't unwind when you've made millions of dollars every year. What should have been generational wealth, it takes years to unwind this. And I'll never forget, I'm sitting in Pensacola, Florida, in a parking lot with my wife, about to walk into federal bankruptcy court with $500 to my name. And the shame that I felt, and the lack of understanding of how I could put my family in this place. But now I can look back, y'all, and I'll tell you this with every bit of truth I can tell you. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because here's what happens is it wasn't just this that unwound that happened. It was over time. And all of a sudden I looked over there and my wife's standing shoulder to shoulder with me. I'm like, well, wait a minute. She kind of meant this for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, sickness and health. I looked around and I had 2 young daughters at that time. And not because I was acting crazy, but because I was working so hard to try to take advantage of the entire situation we had, I was literally leaving the house at 4 a.m., kissing my daughters on the cheek in the morning before they woke up. And at 11 o'clock at night, when I would get home, because I was working so hard to try to, in my mind, take advantage of this opportunity. And I realized what a blessing I had there. So going through all of that, that's what, and then on the other side of that, I got back focused on helping people. There was this guy, Les Brown, who was another one of these speakers. And I remember, if you've ever been in financial trouble, there's the moment where you wake up in the morning sometimes and you just kind of have this little situation where you don't realize what the day holds, and then you remember what you got to do, and it's like somebody hits you in the stomach. So I was listening to this Les Brown tape as I got in the car that morning, and he had that big old boom. If any of y'all know, he had the big black booming voice, like a booming, black pastor. And he says, right out of the gate, he says, your struggle has not come to stay, it's come to pass. And y'all, in that moment, my whole attitude about everything changed. And when that happened, all of a sudden now I began to get back focused on helping people, and we recovered from everything. It was absolutely the best thing that ever happened to me. So this is what brings me to the place where I've got so much passion. There is no way that I can outgive this business. What it's done for my family, what it's done for me. And looking back now, going through that bankruptcy was the absolute best thing that could have ever happened to me. Because now I feel like I'm a better husband, I'm a better father, I'm a better friend, I'm a better human being, and I'm a better person to serve our agents and my clients. So with that in mind, that's what's going to lead us into tonight. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk about one specific book. We're going to talk about The Power of One More by Ed Mylett. This book really crystallized A lot of things that I had thought about but never really put into words. Basically, it's the concept of that if you do just a little bit more, one more rep, one more opportunity to say thank you, one more opportunity to be more of who you're supposed to be, that over time it compounds and it's amazing what it can do. So what we're going to do, I'm going to talk about a couple of these tonight in the little bit of time I've got. We're going to talk about the power of one more thank you. Now listen, when I was in the middle of all that mess, I mentioned I'd wake up and I'd have this knot in my stomach. And so what I realized was that what I focused on, I saw more of. So when I focused on the things I was worried about, all of a sudden, I would come to a place where I would have more things to worry about all day. So what I decided to do, and I did it, I still do it to this day, is I began to say, I'm going to start from a place of gratitude every morning. I'm going to just start right there. So literally, even this morning, when I get out of bed, my first foot hits the floor, I say, thank. Next step, I say, you. And I just walk it out. Thank you. Thank you for my wife. Thank you for my kids. Thank you for my business. Thank you for another opportunity. Thank you to come here tonight. Maybe somebody in here doesn't have to go through all the struggle I went through. All of those things, and I would sit down and I would write them down. Here's what happens, though. Our reticulator, listen to my accent, your reticular activating system in the back of your head that basically filters everything and brings it to reality for you and focuses those things. What it will do is it will give you more of what you focus on. My brother owned a Chevrolet dealership, so all I ever drove was Chevrolets. My wife decided at one point she wanted to have this Honda Pilot. I didn't even know what a Honda Pilot was. So we get her this Honda Pilot, and the next day I'm driving down the road, and here she comes, and I'm just waving at her, and I'm like, oh, that's not her, silver Honda Pilot. I was like, oh my gosh, a little small town. I go to the next place. Here she is. She's at the stop sign. I wait. That's not her either. I was like, my gosh, they're just everywhere. Was it the fact that everybody bought a Honda Pilot at the same time, silver one that she did? No, they've been there the whole time. The difference was I had not been focused on those things. You see, when we focus on what we're thankful for, we're going to have an opportunity to find more things to be thankful for. If we can go to the next slide, I want to give you a couple things. I want to give you some practical stuff tonight, too. So after I walked it out, once we get to these, I think we've got a few on the next slide, some things that we can, some practical things. Oh. Is that for me? Is that I didn't know. I didn't know it was that kind of party, but I'm down. So people to thank one more time. Let me just give you a couple of these, okay? First one, your loved ones. My wife that I just mentioned, I'm gonna give some of y'all something good tonight. Now listen, I don't want you just necessarily to just remember me for this, but a couple of years ago, I get up, I'm going to the gym early. My wife gets up. While I'm coming back from the gym, she's taking my son to school. So we're just like ships in the night. Maybe some of y'all have been there. So literally when I got up that morning, though, what I did is I put toothpaste on her toothbrush, and I put a little note that said, I chose you, and it was the best decision I ever made. See, I'm just trying to, I appreciate that. Let me say this. If you do that, my wife came back as I was getting ready to leave to go to the office. I was late that day. Now, when y'all go home and y'all use that, some of y'all need to use that. Now, when you do, text me, let me know. Yeah? Next person, those who have supported you in life. I had an opportunity about 3 weeks ago. My college coach is 80 years old, turned 80, and I drove 3 hours to have lunch with him. And it was one of these, listen, we're all busy, right? And I was like, there's just no way. I can't make it. I can't do this. And I drove over there, and when I was driving home that evening, I was like, that was the best 3 hours driving there and the best 3 hours coming back to spend that 2 hours with that man who has affected my life in such a powerful way. Who is it in your life that has affected you so much, but it's been a little while since you've thanked him? I would just encourage you to thank those folks. Also, who is it that has supported you in your business? And we're going to go some practical ways now. Be thinking about this because I'm going to tell you some of these practical ways on the next slide with some of the people that have supported us. So here's a couple ways. Handwritten thank you notes. Listen, we're going to do basic stuff for y'all. How long has it been since you've written a handwritten thank you note? They still are effective. They still have impact. Also, video text. Best thing I've done lately is I'll take out my phone and I will actually hold it out and I'll say, hey, listen, I was just sitting here thinking about the people that have impacted my life, and you immediately came to mind. I just wanted to say thank you. And listen, just know I'm here. If there's ever anything I can do for you, I just want you to know how much I appreciate you. I'm going to tell y'all right now, if you'll send 20 of those texts, listen, don't do it for the business. That business is going to chase you down. I'll promise you. So do those things, but do it from a place from your heart. Also, gifts or donations in their honor. Another great thing is listen, instead of just giving them something that is just normal, do you have a client or do you have somebody in your life that loves a certain charity? Something they're passionate about, something they do. We have a number of people in our office that have children that have autism, and one of the things we've done is we've focused on trying to do more for the actual group that supports her and her son. What is it and who are those people that have supported you that have a passion for something, and go out and give them a gift that way? Let's go on to the next slide. Number 2, the power of one more conversation. Listen, life is all about the conversations. You can't have a relationship without having conversations. So what I want to do is I want to go through a couple of things here that will get us an idea of exactly some of these conversations we can have. We can go to this next one. The biggest thing is to engage. Engage with everyone around you. I want to encourage you to be a joiner. And what I mean by that is there is something that you're passionate about. Lindley, I know Lindley is very active in her kids' school. She loves being a part of that. She's joined with that school to work in that school. If it's something that you love, if you love tennis, join a team, join a club, do something. If you love a organization, spend time in that organization, giving back in that. Join, be a joiner. Because when we do that, we'll have these opportunities to have these conversations that we're talking about. Now, a couple people that you can have these conversations with, some of this is going to get a little bit the same. Loved ones. Have those conversations. I try to literally spend and focus in on having those conversations with the people that are important. Past clients, again, we were talking about those video texts. This is a great way just to check in with your people like we did during the pandemic. You know why a lot of times those conversations we had where we're just like, hey, I'm just checking in on you guys. How are you doing during the pandemic? Those were very impactful. They still are. Check in with your past clients. Also, your sphere of influence. And I will say this, make sure with that sphere of influence, you tell them how much you appreciate them. Think about those people that have sent you referrals in the past. Touching back with them is going to make a huge difference, letting them know that you still appreciate everything that they've done. And last but not least, your next client. I had the coolest thing happen. This has been 6 or 7 years ago when I was still in sales. And by the way, I've got the best job in the world. I sold for 25 years. And now all I got to do is wake up and figure out how to give agents what I wish I would have had, which is pretty cool. But one of the things when I was an agent is my daughter, who is coming, my whole family's coming in for the weekend. I'm so excited. They're going to be here in the morning. My daughter, who's now turning 25 on Sunday, who we're here to celebrate, she was getting her high school graduation pictures done down on the beach. Now, here's the thing. We're down on the beach at sunset. My job is to write the check and be there. My wife and my daughter and the photographer are down this way. I'm on this end of the beach with my checkbook and my cold drink. This guy walks by with like a 3 or 4-year-old daughter holding her hand as the sun's setting. And I just said, hey, man, don't blink. And he just turned around and said, what are you talking about? I said, hey, man, that girl over there getting those pictures done, that's my daughter. She's getting ready to graduate from high school. I would kill to have her 4-year-old hand walking with her right now. And that guy comes in and so I just started engaging, having a conversation. Listen, that's what we do, right? So as I'm having that conversation, the topic comes up. I said, well, how long have you been coming here? Because he had asked me what I did. I said, I'm in real estate. And he said, oh, we love this place. I said, how long have you been coming here? He said, we've been coming here 10 years. I said, please tell me that y'all bought something. No, we've been thinking about it. I said, please tell me you're not going to wait another 10 years. We had lunch the next day. That guy has turned out to be one of my best friends, a great client, and between referrals and what he bought, and this is only in a couple of years because I've been out of sales now for 4 years, probably $22, $23 million from one conversation. I just want to encourage you. The conversations and the engagement is so critically important. Make sure that you're having those conversations. You never know when that next client is standing right in front of you. I just encourage you to have that. Next, number 3, and I'm going to wrap this up. The power of helping one more person, and we can go on to the next slide as well. One of the things about helping one person is this is really, I truly believe this with all my heart. The purpose of human life is to serve others. When we serve others, our personal needs and wants are abundantly provided for. Every single time that I have taken the time to focus on helping other people, I get helped way more. Every single time. It never fails. So what I want to do is I want to give you a couple of people that you want to focus in on this. Here's a couple things you can do. Listen more. There's a reason why we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth. But how many of us use our mouth? I'm so guilty of this. I like to talk. So listen, Listen to people. Listen more. The other thing that I've tried to do in my life is every single person I come into contact with, I did this about 5 or 6 years ago. I try to end every single conversation with, is there anything at all that I can help you with right now? And listen, when you say that and you mean it, it's amazing what happens. The law of reciprocity goes to work in the back of that RAV thing. I'm not going to try to say it again. In the back of your mind, it goes to work because now what it does is the law of reciprocity says if we do something for someone, they in turn automatically want to find a way to do it for us. And even if you don't do anything, just by asking them, it puts this into motion. So I would encourage you to start being that person that asks every single person when you end a conversation with, is there anything I can help you with right now? Also, solve the problem. Listen, the best thing we got, I have agents that come in and say, oh, this is the hardest transaction. I'm telling you, this is the transaction that's going to get you the referrals. The problems we solve give you the ability to have relational roots because you've done something that is of more value than any other agent could have done. Also, give without expectation. Listen, it's one thing to give and do things, but when you can get to a point where you don't expect anything back, but you take the time to give to other people without expectation, success will chase you down and beat you like a dog. Every single time that I've gotten to a place where I'm doing this, not from a place of expectation, but from a place of just giving, every single time it comes back. So I'm going to close with this story. There was this story where this man had passed away. He goes up and he's getting ready to figure out, is he going to heaven or is he going to hell? And the guy says to him, listen, it's not your time. But before we send you back, we want to let you see and get a glimpse of heaven and of hell so that hopefully you can frame things in a way that you'll live a little bit differently once you get back down. And he says, which one would you like to see? He says, I want to see the worst first, and then I'll see that best last. He says, okay, well, I'm going to take you. He takes him into this room, much like this. There's this table spread out with the most amazing food you've ever seen. On that table is everything you could ever want in food. But the problem is there are people sitting at this table that are starving. Not only are they starving, they're angry, hangry. They're actually hollering at each other. It's just a bad scene. And the guy says, why don't they just pick up that food if they're starving and just eat some of that food? And the guy says, hang on 1 second and watch. And about that time, one of them pulls his arms out from underneath the table. And then when he looks, he realizes that there's a fork in one hand and a spoon in the other. The guy dips some of the food. And he's like, oh, well, good. He's going to be able to feed himself. He cannot get the fork and spoon to his mouth. So can you imagine having everything you need right in front of you, but you couldn't give it to yourself? And he said, look, I've seen enough of this. I'm going to see heaven. What does heaven look like? He goes to the next room. It's the exact same scene. The difference is that all the people in there are absolutely happy. They're full. They're even a little fat. They're having such a great time. And he says, what's the difference? And about that time, another one of the people pulls their arms out from under the table, fills up that little fork, and feeds the person across the table from him. And at that point, the person across the table that just got fed dips again and feeds the person that just fed him. See, here's the difference in life sometimes is sometimes what happens is we get so focused on feeding ourselves that we starve. We starve physically, emotionally. We get thinking about ourselves, and it literally will starve you. But when we focus on those other people every single time, it comes back. If we can go to the last slide. So life is just about choices, y'all. Choose to have a life of one more. I will say this. I'm leaving this place more inspired than I was when I came. I'm more excited to be in real estate than I've ever been in my entire life. I'm more excited for my friendship with Ron and Sherry, for some of you. I'm more excited about the opportunities that we have in this business. Hey, listen, somebody's going to have their best year ever this year. Why not you? I'll say this, not just financially, somebody's going to have their best year ever. Why not you? When we get to a place where we absolutely choose to serve other people and we go one extra step of having one more conversation, of saying thank you one more time, of serving one more person, I'll promise you every single bit of it will be amazing and you will not believe the results you'll have. I'm so thankful to be here. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of the night.